Cabinet, Cabinet Ministers, Secretary to the Cabinet, and your colleagues in the public sector. Let me acknowledge the presence of former secretaries to the Cabinet, former Auditor General, Yasiame Muliuri Tata, very good to see you after a long time, and also other leaders, former leaders in the public sector that are present. I know some are following this program electronically. Let me recognize our cooperating partners, German Ambassador and your colleagues there. Thank you for your presence here. It's very important to us. We appreciate that. May I acknowledge Professor Mkwena Nipa and your colleague, Professor, who leads the School of Government in RISA, and also all the colleagues that you work with. I must acknowledge the presence of partners, various partners in the private sector, Zambia private sector, South Africa private sector, and other professional academic institutions that are present, and obviously the facilitators that have so far, I'm told, done a good job since the training started Monday or thereabout. Thank you for your presence and the work that you've done. Let me also acknowledge our friends in the media, those sometimes we ignore, but do play an important role in ensuring that whatever we do gets out to the broader public, to the broader community, in fact, beyond the boundaries of this country. So I must say that I am delighted to be here today, very delighted to launch the resumption, as Secretary of the Cabinet has said, the resumption of the mandatory public service training and the certification to all our public sector workers by our National Institute for Public Administration. I want to say that I found it strange when we took public office in 2021, 24th August 2021. One of the things that I paid particular attention to was my interaction with the private sector over the years. As a young professional, young business person, I saw the scale going down from the outside. And I was asking myself questions, why is it like this? And I was asking my assistants, they're here, they will tell you, economic assistant is there, others said, you guys, do you really rate yourselves as Kaunda's advisors, special advisors? Dominic Mulaisho, Patrick Chisanga, you know, Lishomwa Lishomwa, Mark Chona. I said, go and sit on your own, have tea. Are you at that level? Or is just that I was young or too young to notice that the quality then was very high? I wasn't demeaning my colleagues. I was challenging my colleagues to raise the bar, essentially. If anyone felt I was demeaning them, I think they got me wrong. And that applied to cabinet. That applied to myself. I asked myself, definitely, with the education we have, lucky we are, which Kaunda himself gave us, we should perform better than KK. As a president, out of 20 million people, Zambians chose me to be president. I said to my wife, we must count ourselves lucky, but we must work and deserve it and do better than KK. That's the question I asked myself. Secretary of Cabinet, permanent secretaries, of course ministers, I said, everybody, directors, we must ask ourselves that question. Given what we have seen of Singapore, and I'll return to that, are we moving in that direction? Do we feel confident at the individual level? That's a question each one of us ministers seated here must be asking ourselves. But I've been studying this graph, and I began to see that there was a correlation to the quality of the public sector, delivery, commitment to duty, servant leadership. I could see in my own mind, obviously I love numbers, and many Zambians know, that there is a decline here. And it wasn't a shock for me to see that the economy began to decline, and decline at an exponential level. Not good. And so one of the early decisions I asked myself and my colleagues, I said, where's NIPA? What's happening to NIPA? So this relaunch, this refocus of NIPA is not a thumbsuck. It is a conscious decision that we must return to training those that work for the public, sharpen their skills, benchmark, let them benchmark. And that's why we're very happy to have the Prof from South Africa. And thank you to President Ramaphosa for allowing you to come and work with us in this journey. We're very grateful for that. Benchmarking is very important. Knowledge sharing, no need to reinvent the wheel. Very, very important. I know many of us, after we've done our bachelor's, we feel very proud, we feel very educated. Then we do our master's, it's, this is it. This is it, I've arrived. We want to do our PhDs, we said everything is with us. No. Learning is a continuous process until we die. I call myself a perpetual student. We must be perpetual students. So we're grateful for the combination, the array of skills that Secretary of Cabinet, that together with NIPA and the School of Government in South Africa, you have been able to assemble. This is extremely important, and I personally am enthused about it. But let's make the best out of it. So, I won't say the obvious things you expect me to say. Our vision, I believe our vision is clear. Our mission is clear as a new government. But the issue is that alone means nothing. We should be able to translate this vision, this mission, into clear policies, as some of my colleagues have said very briefly. Clear policies, procedures, walking path processes. I use deliberately my mediocre language. Walking path, the processes that will help us to walk towards where Singapore was. Where Singapore is, when we were basically at the same level or slightly better in 1964. How did we depart? How did we get left behind? We must have clear policies. I told you I'm a perpetual student. I've read Lee Kuan Yew's book From the Third World to the First World 3 times. And it sits by my bedside. This is where it sits. And sometimes I'm thinking about something, I look at a particular page, and just reinforces our belief in doing what is right. Somebody from a tiny territory, island nation, that's all it is. This is an island nation. Any one of your provinces, our province is probably larger than Singapore. So what is the issue? Clarity in the vision, in the mission, but of course, the objectives, but the policies, the processes, the laws. All the ministers here are members of parliament. You're very privileged that you're members of parliament at the same time you're in the executive, because the executive is the custodian of the vision, the mission, and the issues we're talking about. Then you have a rare opportunity to sit in the House, legislative House, to now legislate on the laws, to support that vision. I think sometimes we sit in the House of Parliament, where is it? This side. and we just sit as routine. No. We should sit as missionaries there to say this law is offending that aspect of our vision. So we're going to change it. We have a particular knack to delay things in this country. It's a cancerous problem. And we had to go from cabinet to say this thing is delaying the progress. This year's agenda is economic expansion. Prof. Mkwena, I'll slightly correct your write-up here. Economic expansion, not through, but for job creation, for business opportunities, and finally, for social support. Just one word I'm changing. It is our economic expansion agenda to create jobs. So for jobs, for business opportunities, for social support. And the order of those expressions is very deliberate. In this country and many other African countries, we start by saying social support, social and economic development. You will never hear me say social and economic development. You hear me say economic and social development, because the social development can only be feasible, sustainably so, when we have our economy functional. You, the academics, that's very important in our minds to have that clarity. So, to do that, we need to move quickly. Skills we're getting, yes, but to move quickly. And the public procurement laws around in our country were standing in the way. After the amendment, we went to amend them to Parliament, in Parliament there, but we look at now what the amendments we made, we realize we still left some rigidities there. And we should go back and amend those so that they can facilitate, they can quicken what we do in the public sector to support economic expansion so we can create jobs. Mayor is here. Mayor of the city of Lusaka. Is she here? Okay. So that Lusaka can support a bigger population which has increased exponentially. So Lusaka needs to act in different ways and to do the basic things quicker. Garbage collection. We delay, we create environment for cholera. When we have a cholera outbreak, we shift resources that we had planned for economic expansion areas and go and fight cholera. We could have avoided that. It's not a blame on her, but it's an inherent problem arising from unplanned settlements. Cholera epicenters are in Kanyama, they're in George. Am I right? So all unplanned settlements. So I'm putting context to what we are doing here at different levels. So I've only isolated the importance of legislation to be changed to facilitate economic expansion. That's not complicated. It's very simple. But we need to be conscious about it. When we return the process, I see your focus sectors here. Our focus sectors, mining, manufacturing, tourism, agriculture. I know we have many sectors. Before we close the workshop, I want us to add energy, because energy supports all of these things. And with this drought, we have two critical challenges in the country now: food security, energy security. And to unlock food security, we need to irrigate. To irrigate, we need energy. But because we are green largely in this country, Prof from the School of Government in South Africa, in this country our energy is largely green already, but mono, hydro. When there's a drought, we get our capacity, installed capacity wiped out, because our battery code, the storage, the water is not there. Yeah, the water and then the storage capacity. then we cannot drive our irrigation for food security. So now we have to take decisions, quick decisions, to deal with energy as well. And I don't want to waste the time of all of you here. We're taking decisions, quick decisions, next week, this week, next week, for investments in energy, for economic expansion, to support the mining sector. Our revitalization of the mining sector requires substantial energy, maybe an additional 2,000 megawatts. My thumbs up. But the cabinet must be alive to these issues, that our talk of economic expansion sits in agriculture, food security, sits in energy, sits in mining, but to open Mingomba project, which is the largest copper find we have, we need energy, like yesterday, to drive the expansion of Kansanshi mine. Prof from South Africa, these colleagues know what I'm talking about, because we discussed these things in cabinet. We have one mine that was going to close by now or next year. We've rejiggled it and we've extended its life by 20 years. Then another which was idle, we've unlocked it, an additional investment of $1.3, $1.5 billion is going. But energy is needed now, yesterday. And ZESCO was struggling, our utility was struggling to sign a power purchase agreement because the supply side is restricted. But it means we in cabinet must make quick decisions to unlock investment in that direction. I'm putting context to what you have been covering. I don't know what you have covered, but I'm just putting context myself. So a cabinet minister must be astute, must be alive to those issues. And they don't need to be persuaded, they don't need a long debate in the cabinet room. They must tick off these things like yesterday, because they sit exactly in the vision, in the program of this economic expansion. So we can create jobs, we can get business opportunities, we can look after the weak, the sick, the old, the differently abled, the retired in society. And the young, of course, through education and health, as it were. I thought I should put that sort of context in my contribution today. And therefore the priorities of cabinet in the theme that we have for this training. The skills, the benchmarking are all necessary facets to allow us to basically, for example, to move public resources in the way we allocate them in the budget away from consumption expenditure into revenue expenditure, investment expenditure. Every cabinet minister must be aware of those issues. Every secretary to the cabinet must be aware of those issues. Every permanent secretary must be aware of those issues. Then you find that we will be moving as one team. And where we fall short as the Zambia cabinet, we will reach out to the South Africa cabinet. We will reach out to the Botswana cabinet. I took my small cabinet team to Botswana, and I didn't want to go to Gaborone. We met in Kasane at our border, but on the Botswana side, and we had a working visit. And we agreed the things we need to do in order to unlock our economies, facilitate, accelerate our economic activity jointly, such as the Kazungula bridge, which is a common investment between Botswana and Zimbabwe. Because you talked of SADC, these are the sort of things we like to do. And we believe that even on the SADC level, we must change the agenda, not politics for next set of political discussions. I think we must have a lot more to discuss around the economy. And the cabinets of our SADC must be alive to these issues. I like the exchange of visits, which you talked about. And to see the two of you seated together, to me it's positive. To us it's positive. So, I can go on. But let me, I think I've made my point. Let me stress that we are servants of the people. Many times presidents like us start thinking that we are above the people. No. Presidents, vice president, cabinet, permanent secretaries, secretary of cabinet, directors, especially this cadre down there. We start thinking when we run the procurement unit that we run it for ourselves. No, we run it for the people. We are servants of the people. And it's very important that that narrative, that reminder lives in our heads almost daily. Then again it becomes easy to make decisions. And you realize when you've taken public interest as priority, your own personal interests will be taken care of. Your salary will be paid on time if the economy is working. Your children and nieces that were asking you as a minister for school fees, when your government has the right policies that considers that education is an investment and they bring about free education, now your niece doesn't have to call you in January or February for school fees. You're a personal beneficiary. So it saves you from personal pressure for money because your government is delivering free education. To deliver free education sustainably, we have to grow the economy. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Sometimes we're looking for complicated ways of looking at things. It's as simple as that. So what you should have paid school fees for your niece now stays in your pocket as more disposable income. And my appeal to you, despite the poor season this year, don't walk away from agriculture, a sector you've chosen. Let's irrigate. So let's make those decisions. I think that's the way I see a workshop like this. Let's provide leadership. Private sector, thank you for not just sponsoring, co-sponsoring this workshop, but coming here to present, to be skill resource persons, skill providers. This is the partnership that this government wants to basically inject. We do what we do to support the private sector, for them to invest more, for them to grow their businesses, so they can employ more people. Simple again. So thank you to the private sector, academia. Let me stay with the private sector. This government has taken a decision again that we are not them and us, or them against us. Them is the private sector and we in the public sector. We are one. My early days in office, we had a meeting, not in this hall, but in the old wing there, with the Farmers Union. And I told my friend, Chavi Zimba, president of the Farmers Union, and someone was joking that, president of the Farmers Union, president of Zambia, so a small P and big P. I said, Jarvis, I can swap with you. I'll give you the big P. I will carry the small P. It doesn't change who I am. We are not adversaries with the Farmers Union. We are one partnership. We're one team. We're a partnership. And we've created an instrument deliberately called the Public-Private Dialogue Forum platform. So where we do things together. We do things together because we have to. And so in the public sector, the president created a unit called the Presidential Delivery Unit. I see Kuso will be speaking shortly. Again, this PDU must work and is working with the PPDF as routine, not as a one-off. And I've asked these cabinet ministers, Prof. Mukwene, to set up a mirror of the President's delivery unit so that we can be effective and speedy, timely delivery of those activities, those investments, those programs that will help us in the expansion program for jobs, for businesses and social support. I've asked ministers to set up ministerial delivery units. It doesn't replace the civil servants. It uses the civil servants, but only structure them in a way that they can deliver better, easier, quicker. That's all. So this training, I want to propose that must go beyond cabinet. I did say in the side room when we were upstairs, I think it's upstairs, that we must go on to the permanent secretaries, we must go on to the directors, because these are the ones, and the seniors and the procurement officer, so that the procurement officer can understand why we should save money in a particular procurement process. And when we save that money, we can take it into water harvest, we can take it into irrigation, we can take it into solar. for water and sanitation, reticulation. When we have that mindset, then it will be easy to run this country and to move towards Singapore. By the way, Secretary of Cabinet, I'll send you back there. I was whispering to the Vice President that I'll send you back. This time I want you to take a few PSs. I want you to take a few directors. I want you to take a few procurement officers there, Singapore. Walk them through how they moved from where we are, where we were together with them, how they left us behind, how we accepted to be left behind. And hopefully when they come, they can now meet a broader public sector, including local government, and indeed parastatals. Because the love for consumption expenditure lives with the direct civil service, wider public sector, councils and parastatals. This animal which makes us love to spend on non-productive areas lives in our bodies, in our minds. So maybe we can, when people see how our colleagues walked to where they are, it's easier. And they will realize that the president is not, being picky. No. I've heard some comments, some colleagues are saying, him doesn't need the salary because he worked. We need the salary, we need more money. You can make more money by working diligently and earning what is due to you, not what is not due to you. Because what is not due to you must be available for something else. Must be available for a borehole and a solar pump and a 6-meter tank stand and a tank, and a woman now who walks 5 kilometers twice a day to go and fetch water. On her head, 20 liters on her head, child in the back, a child through pregnancy, another child she's pulling by the other hand. This hand is holding the water. 5 kilometers. Now she can just turn a tap. What a beauty. Public service, prudence, prioritization. If we don't deal with these issues in a training session like this, we have lost it. And Prof. Mukwena, you said, what we do must lead to bettering the lives of people at the bottom, such as the woman I'm describing. I feel very lucky, colleagues in Cabinet, because I was born and brought up in a village, so I know the contrast. And some of you were brought up in town. You don't understand the challenges of people in those circumstances. But we can share that knowledge and work as a team to deliver for the people of Zambia, who put us in office, who pay our salaries. I simply want to say, to me, cabinet ministers provide leadership. These things you see daily in your offices, but you look the other way. You see them daily. You see that this process is taking too long, and you pick up your jacket and drive off. Walk in there. Walk in the procurement office. Walk in the permanent secretary's office and have coffee there and say, why is this thing taking long? Time is money. Do you need help? I'm not talking about being aggressive or abusive. Just, do you need help? Can I help you? Can someone else help you? We create a harmonious team relationship, but we don't abrogate our responsibilities and duties. Leadership. But you can't provide leadership if there's no clarity in your mind as to the vision, as to the mission, as to the policies, as to the procedures, as to, if you like, the legal environment. You don't have to be a lawyer. So I want to end by really once more thanking all of you. First, the initiation, Secretary of Cabinet, Professor Mukwena, Professor, Brother Professor, siyabonga kakhulu. Siyabonga kakhulu. Siyabonga. I'm just saying thank you. We're one people. So, but to facilitators, professors, business community, Vice President, thank you for being available to attend these sessions since Monday. We should always have time for these things. And I whispered to the Secretary of Cabinet there, in my usual style, I said, I'm not seeing certain ministers here. Where are they? When we organize a workshop, a program like this, no one travels. I whispered to him, no one travels. And PPS, we must all be together, because this time we spend together is worth millions of kwacha, billions actually. Otherwise, let me take this rare opportunity and honor to launch the resumption of the mandatory public service training and certification by the National Institute of Public Administration for the whole public sector. Mr. Kangwa reminds me that he is not Secretary to the Cabinet for the civil service, but for the public sector. So we relaunched this program, and in collaboration with our brothers and sisters from the National School of Government in South Africa, let's give it support. Let's enjoy what we do. If you sit here and you're looking at your watch that when is tea break, I have to go and do something else, then you shouldn't be sitting here. Because if your mind is not here, your body is of no value here. Everything is in the mind. So the program is officially relaunched. Thank you to all the speakers for the good things you've said and the things you continue to say or do to help each other. I'm told today, then you have another day tomorrow, you close. So wish you well and thank you for your kind attention. God bless.
One more time, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for the President of the Republic of Zambia, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema. We thank you, sir, and we thank you for continuing to indeed sharing your vision and your passion for the development of this country, and for inviting us to be a part of the movement to bring about that change. And